How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scarlet, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today we got loads of really important information to talk about. It's got to do with possibly what the evolutions are going to be, as well as some info on the legendaries, as well as the themes of this game and what the new gimmick is. So there is a lot of information, so sit back, relax, and let's get started. First off, we have this right here. So this coming to us from Soul Silver Art, who is a leak analyst, but he's taking this from another poster by the name of OxyClean here. Now, OxyClean posted this, and it's what he claims to be some leaks that he got from some kind of source. Now, we're going to read first what Soul Silver has to say. There are a few lines in here that add up to theories I have and that I'll tweet later. I have nothing to back this up, other than, to me, it sounds like it could be realistic, but it's probably very fake, as 99% of these are. The 1%, though, I'm keeping an eye on it. So, what is he talking about? Well, we're going to take a look at it. It says, I have many theories that coincide with this. This is only one I've ever actually posted, which is specifically him saying that Palmy should be the one being voted on during one of Riddler Coup, who's a leaker that, he should be voted for to be revealed more info about, because he wants more Palmy info. But what is this actual post saying? Well, this guy says, new Scarlet and Violet leaks. The person supposedly got these from an inside source. And it says the following. Scarlet and Violet leaks. Smoliv becomes a grass fire type. Its oil becomes extremely flammable. This does make sense. This does kind of track, and it wouldn't be weird if, Pokemon was to decide, if Game Freak were to decide to finally introduce a Pokemon that does have the fire grass typing. You know what I mean? I don't think it actually exists just yet, or grass fire typing. It doesn't actually exist, so it only really makes sense that they finally should introduce it. Next states that Lechonk becomes a normal ground type. It is a Pokemon ride and serves as the Stoutland of Scarlet and Violet. So basically serving a similar point as Stoutland. Then Koraidon and Miraidon both have 5 different forms, each for a different terrain. That's kind of what we already been assuming from most recent information. Also based on, again, what Riddler Coup. Riddler Coup is a real leaker, a genuine, legitimate Pokemon leaker that's come up with real information for this year's games and last year's games as well. And he's been giving us some weird hint that there might be 5 different forms for the new legendaries. The opposite version of your game's professor is the leader of the evil team. The evil team is the opposing school, focused on embracing the past, or I guess the other way around, depending on what game you're playing. Depending on your game version, you get a different Pokedex. In Scarlet, you get a notebook similar to what Blue had to use during his journey through Kanto. In Violet, however, you get a modernistic Pokedex. I actually think that would be really sick if there genuinely is big differences between the two games. If one literally gives you a notebook, that's similar maybe to Legends, and the other side gives you something, straight up like a modern regular Pokedex. The gyms are now a mixture of trials from Alola and normal gyms. However, the normal gyms all take place in the outside setting, which actually I'm totally cool with. That, I guess, fits in with the whole open world feeling, so you don't feel like you have to enter into any specific zones in any way. It seems like they really want to make the whole game open without any loading screens. It seems like that, at least. The gyms are now a mixture of trials, okay, so we know that. Regional variant of Dunspots, a new evolution called Dunlarjas, which is a dragon normal type. Now, this actually might be true because, again, Riddler Coup, again, legitimate leaker, did tell us to pay attention to Dunsparce, that something might happen with it. Most likely an evolution. So we're going to have to keep, a look on that one. Unlike Riddler Coup's riddles, everything here is true. I got them all from inside sources. Now, I don't know about that, man. Riddler Coup has been correct about everything. So that is just saying that, you are more right than him. I think that's a false claim. That just doesn't really track, my dude. And he also had some other posts as well, like this one right here, which is the one that you guys can see, there's like a different post, I guess, in some way. But he did include the fact that he's saying, more or less in the bottom here that, his source is this person. I don't really know if we can take that as, legitimate proof, but it is what it is. That was only the first thing for today's video, guys. Next up is this right here. So, this is from Soul Silver. It says, now that we've seen the Pokemon Scarlet mascots, and if the third legend follows, I'm convinced that Fuecoco's final evolution won't have anything to do with serpents and probably dragons. Instead, I believe it will be more a crocodile, ghost, or pepper-based design on the Iberian myths. And fun, I guess here's some fun art about it. But here's what he's talking about. He thinks it's going to be based on this thing. Now, this is a traditional kind of, I don't really know what to really call it, but like a traditional kind of dragon thingy that they have over there in the Iberian Peninsula. And you can kind of see what it says here. So the last week, day of the museum week is dedicated to different, I guess, MW, which is, and the Coca Dragon, it can't be anymore. So I guess it's trying to say here that basically they dedicated this thingy to this crocodile, which doesn't exist anymore, or Drac de na Coca. And let's just take a look at this right here. So you guys may remember this post, right? This right here fits in with that theme. So Cocoyona is a river monster of Georgian mythology. Jornan mythology. According to legend, she was once a nun who, due to her lack of faith, was punished and imprisoned in the dungeon of the city's monastery and could only leave to go to the river that runs through the city, the Onyar. After many years, due to her undernourishment and isolation, she grew scales until she fully metamorphosed into a crocodile-like creature. In spite of this punishment, she was still somewhat saintly, which manifested as a pair of butterfly wings. So is it possible that what we're looking over there fits with that? Because technically, we're talking here about a dead nun who turned into essentially a ghost, or died as turned into somewhat of a ghost, and metamorphed into a straight-up crocodile. I don't know about you guys, but that does sound pretty strange. And time after her death, her ghost began to haunt the Onyar River. So it does fit with, like, this design, like, quote-unquote, leaked design that we've seen of this guy, which we don't know if it's fake or real yet. Nobody came out and claimed it as real or fake. And also, it does fit with this as well. The Spanish and Iberian mythical creature, lots of boogeymen and other weirdos edition, which says the Calzadia lizard, a crocodile-like beast that went around slaughtering entire flocks of sheep until a shepherd killed it by shooting its open throat with a magical shotgun. Its spirit cursed the shotgun to break on the spot so that it would never slay anything again. Basically, it could be based on this too, because again, a kind of a ghostly kind of connection here. Also, shout out to Yorodin for like making this awesome like 3D version of this thing, like a straight up 3D version of this Pokemon. We don't again know if it's real or not, but we'll have to see. And he does point out as well, I do think it will lose its pepper attributes, but instead they will probably intensify, as I believe it will be full on a chili pepper is what I think contributes to its fire type, which I don't know about that, man. But let's move on to the next thing, which is pretty big. So this is also coming from Soul Silver, and it's saying that we got some interesting Easter eggs that were in Generation 8 for Generation 9. So it says, I totally agree with that it's the two toxicities, but the bigger news, again, is that it proves that Scarlet and Violet have been in the last, at least, concept development for a long time. So here's what he says. Okay, inanimate object plus reptilian-based lizards in one. The frills that Tox has, representing a mohawk, matches well with how Kurai for short, has like a headdress looking thing and is spikier. While the frills LK, Tox has and big spikes on the forehead, matches better with the Miraidon. Mirai is, you know, of course, the word for, like, I guess, in this case, I think that's for the future. And how it has a longer, more streamlined head, too. Toxicity are violet, but their shinies become more magenta and red colored. Toxicity has a G-Max form. It gets on all fours, may symbolize riding. Music is important in Hispanic culture. Specifically, guitars like Toxicity's one, because yes, it does have a connection to music and kind of punk rock and all that. And as far as I know, at least, the motorcycle industry is big in Hispanic countries, and it's stereotyped that the rock stars like motorcycles and leads use guitars. That is fair. He also said, Toxel is a baby Pokemon, which can be seen as kind of like Pokemon returning to past roots, while Toxicity and Toxel are modern Gen Mons, and Toxicity again has a G-Max form, which is like futuristic in concept too, kind of like the entire theming around Scarlet and Violet. This is all true. It's solid proof that Scarlet and Violet have been in the works for a very long time, as there was a G-Max Toxicity poster in Ultra Sun and Moon, which is true. There was a poster for Toxicity, a G-Max Toxicity in that game. Maybe not Scarlet and Violet development has been going on this whole time, but planning surely has. And G-Max Toxicity eyes are also the same exact shape as the gimmick gem that we see in the Scarlet Violet logo. If you guys didn't know what he's talking about here, look at that. The eyes on that thing look exactly, and by the way, here's the poster if you guys didn't know. Here's the poster right here of Toxicity in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. G-Max Toxicities right there. But look at this guy right over here. Those eyes look just like this logo. This logo is from Scarlet and Violet's logo, by the way, the Japanese logo, which they always put the hints inside of. So, I don't know what to say, man. There is a lot of interesting points here. And remember, if you guys don't know this, what they do is they oftentimes, through certain Pokemon that oftentimes have form changes, hint at the next game. So if you look all the way back, all the way back to Generation 5, they hinted Generation 6 through these two. These two hinted at it, right? Then over here in Generation 6, they had Pyroar and Noivern to hint at Solgaleo and Lunala, and so on and so forth. They keep doing this all the time to hint at new stuff. Now, I don't really know about Silvally and these guys, Duraludon and all that, if they're really hinting. Maybe they were hints towards, I guess, in some way, hints towards the remake games and Legends and all that, but I know for a fact that these two are. Toxicities are definitely hints, okay? 100% guaranteed are hints, which is really good because that gives us some more details. It gives us some more, knowledge about how long these games have been in the making, which we need to know because it is important for the long-term, investment of ours here. So let's move on to the next thing, which is Fuecoco. Now, Fuecoco and also, I think, Soul Silver came out and said some interesting stuff about this, but we're going to start with Fuecoco's post. It says, thanks to Eclipse's generosity, we can now relate the Lost Crystal scene with light refraction. Now, remember, the person he's talking about here, first of all, Fuecoco is a leak analyst. If you guys didn't know, he analyzes leaks as well. But Eclipse is a kind of leaker slash riddler slash, he can kind of give you information that can be real but also fake. Recently, he's been more correct, like he predicted the exact, or gave us the exact time of, I think, the most recent trailer date. He gave us that info. But remember, take all of this that comes from Eclipse with a grain of salt. But here's what he basically says, though. I and many have defended this concept since Game Freak revealed the Scarlet and Violet names. UV, ultraviolet, and infrared Scarlet. And obviously, the sun needs a major role in all of this. So here's what he has. He's a bunch of theories that we're going to go through. So, we just kind of start in the top right here, okay? So, we got the past and future theories, of course. So, maybe Koraidon, Miraidon, we already know that they're inspired on, past and future. Their names literally feature Korai, which is, I think, in this case, I think that's the past, and Mirai, which in this case means future. That we already know exists here. And he already speculated that maybe this is the same Pokemon. These two do look like the same Pokemon, but maybe they're just 1,000 years apart. They're literally 1,000 years apart in history. They're just based on different time frames. And Eclipse responded to this saying, specifically, he had this post right here where he specifically said, how to tell everyone that are the same but also opposite. Well, if we add the word legendaries in there, how to tell everyone that the legendaries are the same but also opposite, because they are from different times. They've evolved, they changed. Just think about like just the concept of like the Darwinian concept of like evolution, right? Things will change. Certain animals would change with time. I believe in the concept that, we were monkeys at some point, okay? Even though I'm religious or whatever in some way, I still believe that we started from monkey boys, okay? And based on that concept, okay, as far as I'm aware, like, it only makes sense that this legendary is the same thing. It's just evolved. It's just evolved over time and been mechanized in the future to look different. That is what I think. He continues on to the next thing down here, which is this post, also about the future, where he says, same. They are both rideable. They both transform into other rideable forms. Opposites. One represents the past and the other represents the future. Still waiting to see how they relate to the rainbow and, all that sort of concept, like the rainbow and prisms and all that sort of concept. We're kind of missing another legendary here, aren't we? And that relates perfectly over to the fact that, guess what? Riddler Ku, a legitimate leaker, did point out, give us a Chinese text that specifically translates to 5 forms. So we already know these guys will have 5 different forms. But then if we look at the information about light refractions, it starts over here. So first of all, we've got this post over here, of course, of the kind of ending screen of the trailer, which features these crystals. And somebody, people have been trying to figure out what it's all about. Eclipse includes a picture of I think an Italian king, the French flag, and then action. And as far as Fuecoco could figure out, he says, OMG, we're so stupid. Number 1, Victor Emmanuel III, king, and then re in Italian. Then the French flag, domain, France, which is FR. And then basically action, lol. So the way he kind of like puts it together is put these words together and what do you get? Refraction. Refraction. Now, he says, with this analemma theory, which we covered yesterday, which is this idea that like the kind of image you see right here at the bottom, this image right over here that you guys can see in the trailer, specifically shows an analemma, which is this kind of way of like perceiving the sun from different perspectives. It's kind of hard to explain. You guys can check out a previous video we posted on this subject. But as far as we can tell, it does seem like there is a lot of this idea of refracting light, right? We already know that there is a specific Pokemon that takes in light, absorbs light. That is Necrozma. Necrozma quite literally absorbs light, but there are ways to also refract light. Sunlight that comes to Earth, it is just a white light. It doesn't have any colors to it. But once it's refracted against something, those become like those colors spread and we can see them. But remember, we can only see a few of them, not all of them. Keep that in mind. It's a very important point. And he's also trying to figure out the rest of these thingies over here. For example, down here at the bottom, we have specifically this logo, which we're going to go into next here because there is a lot to say about it in a bit. But let's continue down here and see what else we have to learn. Because here's what Solsim said. Crack this one, and it makes perfect sense. With a lot of what we speculated on about, specifically the Scarlet and Violet gimmick, but also the third legendary, you can read all about it in the thread below. It's refraction. It's also true. This one word explains so much. If you think about refraction, it really does make sense. So it really does. It just fits perfectly into this theme. It perfectly fits into all of this. Here's what he says. It will be the first time as themes of refraction have been in previous generations, especially Gen 7. The key here is in previous games, and probably again, now in Scarlet and Violet, there's refraction, but there's also light dispersion. But what content will it be this time? So he's trying to say that there are two different things, right? You got like the bending, refraction, and dispersion of light through a prism, right? There is, you know, like these prisms, which kind of what like Necrozma is based on. It's literally based on kind of a prism, or prisms, I guess, in this case. But based on what we're seeing from like this thingy over here, like the, you guys may have seen, like we talked about earlier, the giant like final ending screen up there. Based on that, there is some crystal connection in here, and maybe these crystals are not actually, like, it's a space where you can't refract this light. It doesn't go anywhere. It just gets stuck in there, which does connect again to this video that was posted, but I think Kayla Capsule, who specifically did a great theory on it. Definitely check it out. But there is definitely more to say here. So, in Gen 7, Necrozma's normal form is literally based off of one of the prisms used in refraction, but outside of that, its signature moves, it doesn't have much of a connection, let alone the function of refraction and dispersion in any way that's significant to the plot. Necrozma is more related to a burnt-out star that absorbs and pillages light to become a literal burning star of light. In Scarlet and Violet, instead, I believe this refraction and dispersion hint, if true, is pointing more to how the gimmick works lore-wise. Literal white light is being refracted into the gimmick gem, the little logo we've seen, is being refracted into that and then dispersed out out of gem into different color variations. However, this will be applied to your Pokemon, and the new color combos made will be the new types made and added onto them. I believe the third legend will be the source of the original white sunlight, right? Which I think is definitely going to be the case. But its design could also be represented by this entire gimmick process, and it could also be multicolored as well. Or back to it being the white light, maybe instead of being made of the same crystal as the actual gimmick gem, and like a Scarlet Violet trailer already teased. Or maybe I'm totally wrong, and this is all about the gimmick, and the third legend isn't connected at all, and instead all relates to the time themes of the two box legendaries. However, those two also somewhat represent infrared and ultraviolet light, so maybe this is all mixing, like a mix of both, since light and space-time are directly connected, which they literally are. I've said this a million times in my videos. Those two are connected. Light, space-time, all that stuff, all that mumbo-jumbo has a literal direct connection to it. And here, for example, time travel and light are interconnected. In theory, if you travel faster than light, you can experience time travel. This is something that I've kept mentioning so many times, man. I have said this so many times that it only makes sense. Time travel, in theory, fits perfectly with light, because if we are able, theoretically, to travel at the speed of light, we might be able to actually time travel. Just keep that in mind. So, bottom line, this is all very speculative, and no one knows what direction Game Freak went with these feature in Pokemon. I believe we're still missing a piece to connect all of this, which I do agree with. There is something that's missing here. And as you guys see right here, he's kind of talked about this previously. As you guys know, this logo, we're still trying to figure this one out. And that's what we're thinking now. This might be the thingy that, again, the legendary causes this phenomena. The same way that, if you guys didn't know, back in Gold and Silver, it is said that it was basically, what do you call it? Team Rocket experimenting on a Magikarp to try to evolve it into a Gyarados, and that caused it to become shiny when it evolved. When it evolved, it was a shiny Gyarados instead of a regular one, which is speculated that they are the reason that shinies became a real thing. So would it really be that weird to assume that maybe some weird legendary exists that's going to cause Pokemon, this whole region, to actually change in typing, or change in how they are and everything? Just change around in every possible way, maybe their colors or typings, or give them a third typing. It is all possible at the end of the day. So, let's continue. Like I mentioned above, there's already a very possible alternative scenario for the third legend to go in, and this would again correlate to Eclipse's Hydreigon hint, saying if this entire gimmick is related to the legendaries, I believe the legendary would be the opposite of color. Perhaps a black Pokemon that could absorb these attacks. If so, that would make sense with the theory you've got going on as of right now, which could be possible. I don't really know. Again, I'm brought back to the Indalo of Ispo of the third legendary. If it takes the unseen route, maybe it's a dragon ghost, especially because of the rumored PLA, PLA Pokemon that was being rumored, was hinting at, and Scarlet Violet and Giratina was the antagonist's, main Pokemon in that. Also, this could also relate to it holding light or the rainbow in an infinite time loop, which, by the way, this guy right here is very famous down there, is literally holding a rainbow in a loop. Guess what? The Pokeball here is going in a goddamn loop. I feel in a weird way there is a connection between all of this. There's a weird connection between all these things, and that is pretty much that. So let's move on to the next subject for this video, which is right here. So this is again from Kayla Capsule. Now you guys may remember the logo here. It features a bunch of these different logos. We've got this one up here, this one right here, this one here, this one here, and this one right here. So we already know a few of them. This one up here is the representation of the legendary itself. This one might be the representation of the concept of co-op, right? Because there's 4 different little circles that might be the 4-man co-op. Then we have this one right here, which specifically could be relating to what she already said, quantum time, in her video. I would definitely recommend check out Kayla Capsule's video, because it talks specifically about what this logo is and how it connects. The fact that it literally could be quantum time, and that the kind of ending screen we see with the crystals specifically is quantum time, and the Pokeball can only go really in one direction. And then we have another one, which is this one right here. She did a second video on this one saying it's most likely a sextant. A sextant is a, I don't know if I should really call it an item, but it's a tool used to specifically, for maritime, people, I guess, or maritime, ways. It's specifically used to kind of navigate, right? You need it for navigation. But she points out a very interesting point here, which is that if you look at the actual logo here, if you pay attention to it up there, it also has 00 next to it, which is kind of odd, because what 00 implies on a sextant is that it is not set up properly. It is not properly adjusted, so it's not going to give you the right, it's not going to give you the right answer you're looking for. It's not going to give you the calculation, let's call it that you're looking for, which is interesting, because if you connect that to the literal opposite side logo, so this one's right here, and the one opposite of it is this one right here, which is the quantum time one, okay? The quantum time one, it could be this idea of perhaps, right, it's set up the wrong way, so you can't navigate correctly, because of the fact that quantum time, there is no way to see a horizon in there. There's no way to line things up there the way a sextant needs it to be for it to actually be able to navigate correctly, right? So because quantum time is all jumbled more or less, and it doesn't have a clear direction, because everything just goes either usually in a very much a circle rather than in a straight line or in a straight way, that may connect perfectly to each other. And the final one is this one over here. Now, I think somebody has an interesting point for this one. This is from Warrior Esports, who said it could just be a stat web. It literally could just be a stat web. I mean, it looks the same. It literally looks the same as a stat web. It literally could be that. So maybe something to do with a statistical change in a Pokemon, actually stat changes in a Pokemon. It could be possible. Could be totally wrong about that. But I would recommend, again, check out her channel, check out her videos. The most recent one she posted is fantastic about this subject. So let's go on to the next thing, which is from Soul Silver Art. It says, I feel like no one is talking about this. Following Pokemon, I feel like the community aren't just excited about this feature, because yes, a lot of people missed it. But guys, following Pokemon are back. They should be a standard, but I'm happy they are back now, and that's going to be that. Ladies and gents, I think we've pretty much at this point gone through most of the stuff. The final thing I want to mention is this right here from Kuro Blitz. He speculated months ago, before the second trailer, saying, I know that at first glance this might be Bill's lighthouse from episode 13 here, but in reality it's based off of Portugal's Cabo da Roca. Therefore, the rocket part of it, I guess. But yeah, this is a depiction of most extreme point of Europe, where the land ends and the sea begins. And this was in the Pokemon anime in some of the more recent episodes. It says where the ground type ends and the water type begins. They literally say that in here. Guys, you know what's interesting? This was in this episode, right? And this is in Portugal, as far as I'm aware. Okay, if you look at the new trailer, it starts where the land ends and where the sea begins. And there are the legendaries. This is a perfect connection, a perfect kind of way to push all this together. And ladies and gentlemen, that's also the perfect time for me to say that's the end of the video, guys. If you did enjoy, drop a like down below, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, and bye-bye, ladies and gents.